With swords they come to take me. Could you not watch? Could you not watch? Could you not watch with me 1 hour? Could you not watch? Could you not watch? Could you not watch with me? Jerusalem, weep not for yourselves, but weep for your children. Yes, weep for your children's children. Could you not watch? Could you not watch? Could you not watch with me 1 hour? Could you not watch? Could you not watch? Could you not watch with me?
Jesus had not finished speaking before Judas, one of his own disciples, arrived with a group of Roman soldiers and other armed men from the temple. Now the betrayer had arranged with the authorities for a sign and had said, "The man whom I kiss is the one you want." In accord with this arrangement, Judas went directly to Jesus and cried out, "Greetings, Master." Then he gave him the kiss. Jesus responded, "Judas, would you betray the Son of Man with a kiss?" Immediately the soldier laid hands on Jesus and held him fast. Then one of the disciples with Jesus drew his sword and cut off an ear from the slave of the high priest. But Jesus said to him, "Sheathe your sword. All who take up the sword will perish by the sword. Do you not know that I can call upon my Father and that he will respond at once with more than 12 legions of angels?" Then turning to the mob, Jesus continued, "Have you come for me as against a rebel bandit with swords and clubs? Why did you not seize me in the temple where I sat teaching by day? Were you so afraid of the religious authorities that you must come for me by stealth? Nevertheless, your actions are fulfilling the words of the prophets." Then all of his disciples forsook him and fled.
Those who had seized Jesus brought him to Caiaphas, whom the Romans had made a high priest. Peter followed at a distance as far as the courtyard. There he sat with the attendants and warmed himself by the fire. The high priest had gathered his whole council, and they began to arrange the case against Jesus which they would present to Pontius Pilate, the governor. The charge was that Jesus claimed to be king of the Jews, and they brought in many false witnesses, but to no avail. Finally, 2 came forward and testified. "We heard this man say, 'I will tear down this temple made with hands, and within 3 days build another not made with hands.'" The testimony was evidence that Jesus claimed an authority over temple affairs, which traditionally belonged only to the rulers of Israel. And in those days, Israel was ruled from Rome. Yet even these witnesses were unable to agree on their testimony. Finally, Caiaphas stood up and examined Jesus directly. "Have you no answer to these charges?" demanded the high priest. Jesus remained silent and answered nothing. Then the high priest put the question of the kingship in terms of the royal titles, anointed and Son of God. "Are you the anointed one, the Son of the Blessed?" he probed. Jesus answered, "I am, and you shall see the Son of Man seated on the right hand of power and coming in the clouds of heaven." The high priest turned and said, "What need have we of witnesses? He has condemned himself." They all concurred that Jesus was indeed worthy of death. Then those holding Jesus began to spit on him. They covered his face and were striking him as they taunted him and said, "O anointed one, prophesy, who is it who is striking you?"
Now Peter was warming himself in the courtyard when a small slave girl entered. She confronted Peter and said, "You were the one with Jesus the Nazarene." Peter quickly gave a denial. "I do not know what you're talking about." He replied and went outside into the gateway. Meanwhile, the cock crowed. The slave girl followed Peter out and said to a bystander, "This man is one of them." Again, Peter denied knowing him. After a little while, a bystander said directly to Peter, "Surely you are one of them, for you speak with the Galilean accent." And Peter began to swear with an oath, "I do not know this person whom you are speaking." But the cock interrupted him and crowed for the second time. Immediately Peter remembered what Jesus had said to him, "Before the cock crows thrice, you will deny me 3 times." He went out and wept bitterly.
When morning arrived, all of the chief priests, along with the other Roman collaborators, bound Jesus, and they delivered him over to Pontius Pilate, the imperial Roman governor. When Judas saw what was happening, he knew that Jesus was doomed, and he repented. He returned the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priest and confessed, "I have sinned in betraying innocent blood." "What is that to us?" they responded. "That is your affair." Judas threw down the 30 pieces of silver in the temple. Then he went out and hanged himself. Picking up the silver pieces, the chief priest said, "It is unlawful to put this silver into the treasury, for it is blood money." Whereupon they used the money to buy the potter's field for the burial of strangers. Therefore that field is known to this day as the field of blood.
Jesus stood before the Roman governor as the accusers made their charge. "We found this man perverting our nation," they said. "He was forbidding us to pay taxes to the emperor and proclaiming himself anointed king." The governor asked, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus answered, "You have said so." The chief priests were accusing him of many things. Therefore Pilate again spoke to Jesus. "Have you no answer to give?" he asked. "Look at how many accusations they are making." Jesus astonished Pilate by remaining silent.
At the feast of the Passover, the governor used to release a prisoner, and some were urging Pilate to do so at this time. Now there was a notable rebel in prison with those who had committed murder during the insurrection. His name was Barabbas. Therefore the chief priests arranged a demonstration to demand Barabbas. Pilate asked them, "Who do you want me to release for you, Barabbas or Jesus, the Anointed One?" The demonstrators shouted, "Barabbas!" Pilate responded, "What shall I do then with Jesus, the Anointed One?" And the crowd shouted, "Crucify him!" Pilate continued, "Are you certain of his guilt?" The crowd took up the chant, "Crucify him! Crucify him!" Again Pilate spoke, "Shall I crucify your king?" "We have no king but Caesar," cried the demonstrators. Then Pilate agreed to release Barabbas.